Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the Office for New Americans for this month's webinar on the topic of supporting the mental health of our New American communities through trauma-informed care. I'm Laura Gonzalez Murphy speaking. I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Office for New Americans and also serve as the Language Access Coordinator for the New York State Department of State. Our office coordinates, as many of you are aware, a monthly webinar series to connect to resources and programs for success and well-being of our New American community in New York State. We had today over 450 people registered for this month's webinar, obviously speaking to the importance of the topic. And thank you all for sharing your feedback in your registration form, which helped our presenters here today prepare for the webinar. We also appreciate our knowledgeable experts who will provide an overview on the topic of trauma-informed care. Their expertise shared today with us will help us commemorate September as Suicide Prevention Month and Self-Care Awareness Month. Again, it's a very important topic. New Americans represent a significant part of New York State's population. Approximately 1 in 4 New Yorkers are New Americans. As you all are aware, immigration in itself can be a very traumatic experience. New Americans may be fleeing war, genocide, armed conflict, persecution, even climate disasters or famine. Immigrants resettle in an unfamiliar environment and may feel social isolation. About 1 out of 3 asylum seekers or refugees experiences high rates of depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Refugees and asylees also experience high rates of suicidality. Recent federal immigration policies have elevated mental health needs for New American communities as they are being re-traumatized instead of feeling safe in their country of choice. Can we go ahead with the next? Yeah, slide. So our office stands to respond to the mental health needs in our community. We have our Golden Door Support Program, which offers mental health support groups for immigrants supported by a licensed mental health provider. To find one of the support programs near you, please do visit our website or call the New York State Office for New Americans hotline at 1-800-566-7636. To respond to the needs for mental health for our New American communities and build our community's resilience, we are grateful to be featuring today the following presenters. And I can tell you firsthand, they're amazing. First, we will be hearing from Elizabeth Minker, who is the Senior Director of the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center. And Elizabeth, I hope I said your last name right, Minker?
Yes, you got it.
Good. You never know. I always wonder with last names. And Josh Higgins, who is the Community Provider Engagement Specialist at the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center. The New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center provides opportunities to strengthen communication among individuals and agencies implementing trauma-informed practices. The New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center supports all New Yorkers on the journey to becoming more trauma-informed and shapes and accelerates trauma-responsive activity across New York State. We will also have the pleasure of being joined by Linda Lentini, the Executive Director for the Breath, Body, and Mind Foundation, Inc. Linda will be guiding us through a set of simple but powerful breathing exercises and gentle movement to reduce stress. To our ONA grantees that are here present, we urge you to connect with the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center to bring their free services to your organization and thus your employees. Here are some friendly housekeeping reminders, though, before we begin. Please write your questions in the chat function. We will have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. Again, for everybody, as you heard at the very beginning, the meeting is being recorded, and that way the slides and recording link and names of our presenters will also be shared with you after. Without further ado, let me turn it over now to Elizabeth and Josh to start us. Thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you so much, Laura. We're so happy to be here today. And I think I should be able to advance the slides. Okay. Brian, I'm not seeming to be able to advance the slides.
You can use the keyboard or you can use the arrow up top. It's four.
I see it. Gotcha. All right, here we go. Thank you for that direction. I appreciate your assistance. So it's a pleasure to be with everyone this afternoon. I think this is such a timely and important conversation, as Laura laid out as she was doing her introduction. And so we just wanted to start off telling you a little bit about the network, really setting the stage for why this discussion is so important right now. And then I'm going to turn it over to Josh, who will be telling you about the types of resources that are available through the network. And before we then invite Linda to the stage, who's going to lead us through some experiential exercises, which I know I could use this afternoon. So I'm looking forward to that. But just to give you a very brief history, the New York State Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center was established in 2018, and the rationale behind it is we knew there was a lot of fantastic work happening across the state to support trauma-informed practices, but we weren't well connected to each other, and we really couldn't then benefit and learn from each other. So there was a small investment that was made in 2018 to get the network started, and then the New York State Office of Mental Health fully made a large investment, and we were able to launch the Network and Resource Center in 2020, the start of 2023, and we're halfway through a 5-year grant. So our vision is that we imagine a New York State where all people in their communities can attain wellness and resiliency, and that we want to make sure that the systems and agencies and organizations that support people have the tools that they need to support healing from toxic stress and trauma. Knowing that this takes all of us, this isn't just a mental health initiative, this is a system community initiative. So when we think about trauma, there's many, many definitions you can find. I particularly like this one by Dr. Gabor Mate, who's a leader in the field. And he reminds us that trauma is what happens inside of you as a result of what happened to you. Oftentimes we might think about the trauma as the event but really it's someone's response to that event. And we'll be talking a little bit more about what that means, but it just helps and reminds us that this is very personal and it's based on people's experiences, supports, and resources at any given moment in time. So wanted just to start and ground us first in the human stress continuum, because not all stress is bad. Oftentimes when we hear the word stress, we might even just have an immediate negative association to it. But stress can be positive. All of us being here together in this moment in time took some effort and coordination, and we want to learn and grow. And so when we're in that mindset of learning and growth, sometimes that comes with a little stress, and that is good. That helps us to develop, and that's healthy for our development. Along the continuum further along is tolerable stress. And this type of stress is part of the human journey. It's things that we're all going to experience. The broadest category thinking about being loss, and that's not only loss of people, but loss of places, loss of sometimes identity and who we are, jobs, other types of losses we might experience along the way. Those can be painful, they can be challenging, but when we have the right resources, supports in place, we can manage through those. And oftentimes those are moments in our life when we look back where we've maybe also experienced some type of growth, even if it was painful and difficult in the moment. When we move further along the continuum, we get to a place of chronic or toxic stress. And these are things where our stress system is activated over prolonged periods of time and can then have further impact on us. For some people, those could come from things that are called adverse childhood experiences, events that happen to people, trauma, abuse early in life, but it can happen along kind of our life's journey, things that happen in the community, environmental impact that can also cause that toxic stress. It can be things like experiencing racism or oppression as well. And then thinking about traumatic stress. And these are overwhelming events that can happen. They usually are something that could happen, impact an entire community, an entire nation. So thinking about things like natural disasters, or Laura mentioned climate change, things that are happening as well. And when we have, again, supports in place, we can manage through those. But if we already have in our life other tolerable stress going on, or chronic and toxic stress, it can be more difficult to manage those traumatic events. So a way that we think about traumatic response to these different types of stressors are these 3 E's that comes from SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. And so we talked about there can be an event. The event can be a singular event, so being maybe in some type of accident. It can be an ongoing event that activates our stress response, living in a community where there's community violence. And it's really, again, our experience of that. So that event is experienced as life-threatening in some way to our sense of physical or psychological safety. And so while we all could experience a similar event, for some of us, it may be experienced as traumatic, and for others, it may not, just be given the different factors in our lives at that current moment in time. But that perception is really important to understand, so that we don't judge someone's experience based on our own, but we are open to understanding their lived experience. And then there's an effect. And so the impact of that traumatic response, that prolonged activation of that stress response, shows up in different domains of wellness. It can show up mentally, physically, socially, emotionally, or spiritually. I do want to pause and take a moment and really name, as Laura kind of identified, common experiences of people coming to this country and additional types of trauma that they might have experienced both on their journey here, or before they left their home country, and when they arrive here. So, thinking about fleeing violence or persecution, living in a war zone, living in, refugee camps or things like that. And then when they've come to this country, the journey to get here, which can often be fraught with many challenges and can be traumatic in and of itself. And then once they arrive, adapting to a new culture where you don't speak the language, you're not familiar with the cultural practices or how to navigate, you don't have the same resources or supports perhaps that you had in your country of origin. And then navigating all the different, systems to access services, thinking about housing and getting employment and benefits and healthcare. And all of those things can, compound someone's, the experiences and trauma that they've experienced. And then layering on that, naming the moment we're in, where, policies that are currently in play in our country in terms of immigration and what people might be experiencing can add another layer to that traumatic stress. Those things are going to show up. And if we have that prolonged activation of that stress response, they can show up in many different ways. And some things might feel connected to what happened, and some things might feel very different and disconnected from that. But over time, if we don't have a way to cope and manage with that, it can undermine our health and well-being. I think the important thing here that I just want to really emphasize is these the way that we experience these events in different domains is predictable. These are not unexpected, but if you don't know that, and suddenly you're experiencing these different symptoms, emotionally you're feeling maybe very hopeless all of a sudden, and depressed and anxious, and that's not how you used to feel, that is very disorienting and can feel overwhelming in and of itself. So one of the things that we'll talk about is ways that we can support people is to help to normalize their response to these challenging situations and provide that education around how sometimes these things show up in many different ways. So here we see these common reactions broken down by domain, and people might experience different symptoms in one or multiple domains, and it can change over time as well. And so, we can see everything from having flashbacks or having trouble with concentration to people having all sorts of physical different types of symptoms. Again, feeling a whole range of different emotions. Behaviorally, in an attempt to kind of cope what's going on, people might engage in different types of behaviors to kind of self-soothe through substances or other types of risky types of behaviors. And interpersonally, their relationships might be impacted as well. Again, these are common reactions to these challenging situations. So again, when we can help educate people, it can help to normalize those responses and then help to think about ways that they can get support. So one of the things that we talk a lot about in through the network are trauma-informed practices, ways that people, no matter what organization or system you're associated with, that you can support people by creating environments that are safe, that are welcoming, that are trustworthy and can help to mitigate against those stress response that people might be experiencing. So there's what we call the 4 R's of trauma-informed care, trauma-informed practices, also coming from SAMHSA. The first is realizing, so understanding and recognizing that trauma and adversity is much more common than we ever thought. When we think about those adverse childhood experiences, 2/3 of us have experienced at least one. And then as we go through life, as I said, there's many other experiences that we might that might occur to us along the way or happen to us along the way. So when we can recognize that and recognize the way it can impact people, not only the people who we might be serving, but the people we work with, we're all human too, and we've had our own life experiences. And so trauma can affect the people who we're delivering services to, but we might have had it in our own lives. And so understanding that we need to really take a holistic approach when we think about trauma-informed practices. And so we respond by taking that knowledge of how we know that trauma can impact people and putting it into practice with a particular focus of not re-traumatizing people. Sometimes the way we've developed services and supports can create new barriers and obstacles that can be very challenging for people who've experienced trauma to access services. So we really want to focus on how can we create the healthiest environment that support the well-being of both the people we serve and the people who work there. So we do this by implementing these core values of a trauma responsive organization. So these 6 principles really are our guideposts, and we look at them and we think about everything from how people first engage and enter services or the people who work there to how those services are delivered, the environment, our policies, our procedures. It's woven into the fabric of organizations. It starts with safety and thinking about both physical safety and psychological safety, and creating things and practices that are going to support that. It's about developing trust and transparency, not assuming someone knows who you are or what your role is, that we're very clear about that. And we're also clear about what we can do and we can't do, that those boundaries are made explicit. that we look for every opportunity to help restore people's sense of power and voice and choice, which is often lost when they've experienced some type of traumatic event, and there's that sense of powerlessness that happens. So where is every opportunity that we can build and tap into people's strengths that are there, and help to name them and strengthen them? Looking for opportunities to authentically collaborate with people, and not do for them, or, kind of make choices for them, but really allow people to know and make informed decisions about what's going to be best for them. Looking for opportunities for peer support, where we can connect people with other people who have been through similar life experiences, and really paying attention to the cultural, historical, and gender issues. And we know that these groups have experienced particular additional oppression and discrimination, and that we're paying attention to that and how that intersectionality of that can come to play. So when we think about trauma-informed environments as well, it's important that we're thinking again about the people who provide the services. All of this work starts with you. There's a lot of evidence-based practices or ways of doing things, but that's delivered by a person. And so we really pay attention in trauma-informed environments to the staff and making sure we're doing everything to support their well-being. And so the concept around that is called compassion satisfaction. So that's when you're in a place in your work where you derive a lot of pleasure from being able to do your work. You wake up in the morning and you're excited to do the work that you're going to do. You feel positive about the people you work with. You feel like what you do makes a difference, and that you have the capacity to keep up with the work that you're doing. So I want to pause for a minute and ask you to think about times when, that you felt that sense of compassion, satisfaction. And in the chat, if you can just name something that, really fills you up, or when you felt that sense of satisfaction or success. That's kind of create before we are asking about soup, and we created a collective cookbook of sorts, and this is another variation of that. Like, what are the things that fill you up in this work? And so if you just want to add some things in the chat, that would be great. I'd love to hear from you. So it's the assisted winning an asylum case. Yes, I can imagine that really brought a sense of satisfaction when you get a case approved, getting a favorable outcome for clients. Now they're coming in. When I congratulate a student on getting something tough and they thank me. Yeah, so recognizing someone's effort, a simple smile and a thank you from a teacher, or making a student laugh. I love that. And yeah, so reminding ourselves that satisfaction can come at very small moments when we stop and really take those in, right? Oh, so many are coming in now. I love this. Being trusted, getting students meaningful employment, not just a job. So many great things. That's great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, and feel free to continue to add to that. Because it's important to fill our cup, and it's important to fill our cup and replenish that on a regular basis, because if we don't, we're at risk for experiencing work-related stress. So before, I was talking about that human stress continuum, and a form of that can be work-related. So we can experience positive work stress, tolerable work stress, but we can also veer into toxic work stress. And that's when we're at risk for experiencing things like burnout or compassion or empathy fatigue, where we've heard so many difficult, challenging stories that we're feeling it's difficult to kind of evoke a sense of empathy because our well is so dry internally. we're also could be at risk for vicarious trauma and secondary traumatic stress. We think about especially the work that you're doing with New Americans and the stories you might hear from what they experienced to get here. That exposure to those stories can cause a traumatic response in us. And so being aware of that and thinking about moral injury. And this is when there's times where we feel like we're put in a position where we have to make decisions we never wanted to make, where you're choosing, kind of or compromising your integrity in some way. And that can cause traumatic or stress for us and toxic stress for us as well. So we can all be at risk for these things. It kind of are things that can come with the work that we do, and there's things we can do to mitigate against that as well. So that's where compassion resilience comes to play, when we're able to do things to prevent or mitigate against that risk. So just like when I was talking about the understanding those different types of common reactions that we can exhibit when we experience trauma, it's normalizing these experiences. Again, these are things that can happen in the work that we do, but there's also things that we can do where we can take control and help to reduce the risk of that. Part of it is the organizational responsibility. What are organizations doing to make sure that the work environment itself is trauma responsive for their workforce? And then also, what are the things that we can do individually where we can help promote our self-care? And I know, again, in a little bit, we'll have some exposure to some of, kind of what those things could look like or be part of your self-care plan as well. So I went through that pretty fast, and I'm going to turn it over to Josh. I just want to say this is like a little taster of the type of training that we do, and we go in much more depth, and Josh will be talking about some of those opportunities. So I'm going to pass the baton over to Josh.
Thank you. Sending my appreciation to everyone here that's doing like this like crucial and amazing work to ensure that New Americans are treated well. It can be part of this. It's part of this country. So it's an amazing thing that y'all do. So in our general sort of motif for this whole initiative has been join the journey, and I hope that I can outline some of the ways to get involved in the TNRC that can be applied no matter where a person is on their journey as far as like knowing about like trauma-informed practice. One of those initiatives is called Tending the Roots, which is which is a training that can help you to understand how toxic stress and trauma can affect us all. In this training, you can learn about the connection between racism, our environment, and tough experiences, and also just like general factors that can affect our health. There is an education. You can obtain knowledge on how to help yourself and others bounce back from tough experiences and create and have the tools and knowledge to create spaces that are safe for everyone. We also have an initiative called the Trust. Oh, and I'll go back to the previous slide. Our Tending the Roots training, it also has an instructor's edition. So you are able to turnkey that information to your own organizations and communities and become a trainer yourself. There are already a ton of trainers across the state. So there are like opportunities if you are interested in having a training come to you. There's a lot of trainers out there, and I'm a point person that can help to connect you to the training and the trainers, as well as more information. In addition, we have our trust assessment and our trust S, and that is a trauma responsive. It stands for the Trauma Responsive Understanding and Self-Assessment Tool. It's a survey and report that is it comes at no cost. All of our initiatives are totally free, and our trust tool is a strength-based organizational self-assessment that provides organizations with a point-in-time snapshot of where they are on their journey towards becoming trauma responsive. And we also can provide some consultation around that to help with any implementation and practice improvements. And this kind of goes, I won't go into too much detail because I'll allow Linda, as she will lead you through a breath, body, mind practice. It is it's absolutely amazing. I've participated a lot at this point, and we are proud to collaborate with the Breath, Body, Mind Foundation to provide the practice for free. We have practice sessions every Tuesday. We have an early morning session to start your day. We have a midday session, which I am all about my midday meditation to get through the rest of the day and get my energy up. And then I'm going to have an 8 p.m. session to calm your body and get ready for some relaxation and hopefully some sleep. And then on Wednesdays at 8 p.m., we also provide a Spanish language session as well. And again, all these initiatives are free of charge for all New Yorkers. We also have our directory. So our directory is a key piece. I always tell people that our network is only it's only as active as the people that are participating, and registering for our directory is a great way to get connected to all of the comings and goings on the network. Registering for our directory gives you an opportunity to post your own resources, to explore resources that other organizations or agencies are posting themselves, obtain access to our newsletter, and then you are also listed as an organization or an individual. Our website gives you the ability to search by a region, county, sector, population. It also provides you an opportunity to locate people that can provide the attending the roots trainings as well. We also have a ton of resources. So really the network is a full collaborative where people can register, post resources. You can go on our website and actually look for particular points of interest. It's a very, it's all like, it can give you aggregated results on a bunch of different areas, including racial justice, substance abuse, education resources, and on many other topics of interest. And it is also a foundational resource for providing assistance for individuals who are in migration. It includes information that helps people to understand the unique challenges and also provides practical tips. I encourage that everyone get involved however you can. Like I said, our network is really only as powerful as the people that are actively participating. So really, I encourage people to register for our directory, to please join a BBM session, really suggest it to the people that you serve. and take the trust trust survey. Our Pathways podcast is hosted by Elizabeth, who has already hosted a bunch of podcasts. They are posted on our website. They are also on podcasting platforms as well. And please, just at the bare minimum, you get access to our newsletter to stay up to date on all of the great things that the 10RC has to offer. And if you want to visit our website, we've had codes on our slides. And just to let people know, because I am the outreach and engagement person with the network, please do not hesitate to contact me at any time to explore other ways to collaborate and get involved. All right, and I think at this point, I think we're going to have a question and answer session. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them or to get at me directly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Lentini. I'm the Executive Director for the Breath, Body, Mind Foundation. I'm also somebody that uses these practices to make sure that I stay grounded with everything that goes on in the world. I recently met with a friend who is a mental health attorney and has been for the past 30 years. And she talked about how she feels depleted and kind of lost, and she's not given enough time to take care of herself because the need is so great and now it's becoming even larger. So these practices are something that I've slowly introduced into her life, and she's starting to work them into her day. As somebody that balances a lot in my own life, I do these practices to really stay close to my heart as I look at things that are going on, injustice around us. So I really encourage you to take all your thinking hat off, everything that you have to do. And for the next 30 minutes, just be here in your body and let's work through some of this stuff. Gabor Mente is a trauma specialist. Bessel van der Kolk is also, and he talks about our body keeps the score. So I'm going to show you some practices that really allow you to move that stuff through your body. I also want you to take care of yourself. You're the only person that knows what it feels like in your own body. So if I ask you to do a practice and it doesn't feel right, just make some modifications. I am going to sit for some things and stand up for other things. Everything can be done in a seated position. You don't ever have to get up. And we've also taught these practices to people that can't even sit up, that they need to lay down. These practices also can be adapted. We've been able to work with people that are hard of hearing and have visual impairments. So we've been able to modify a lot of these practices. And these practices, there's a lot of research to back what the reason we do the practices, why we do them, and in the sequence that we do them. So let's take our thinking caps off. I'm going to encourage you to take a nice breath in and a breath out with an audible sigh. Breath in. Breath out with an audible sigh. Invite you to give yourself a nice hug. And you can close or lower your eyelids with that hug. And if it feels right for you, you could rock back and forth, side to side, or stay still. And gently release that hug, but keep a hand on the shoulder and just start to squeeze down that arm, starting with your shoulder. I'm lifting my arm up so you can see my arm, but please keep yours nice and rested. Going down to the upper part of your arm. the lower part of your arm, your wrist, and your entire hand. All of your fingers, from the base of your finger to the fingernail, trying to work things out of your fingers. And when you've completed all your fingers, go back to your shoulder and do that again. Squeeze your shoulder, upper part of your arm, lower part, your wrist. And if any point of your hand and arm needs any more attention, just go back to that area. All of your fingers. And gently brush anything off that arm, brushing it all off. I invite you to gently come to stillness, close or lower your eyelids if that's comfortable for you in your environment, and just notice. Notice if you recognize the difference between the arm you just worked on and your other arm. Taking a nice breath in, a breath out with an audible sigh. Another breath in, breath out with an audible sigh. Giving yourself another hug. If you want, you can cross over a different way. And again, with the option to rock back and forth, side to side, or just stay still. Giving yourself the compassion. Releasing that hug by keeping your hand on the other shoulder and squeezing your shoulder, upper part of your arm, lower part of your arm, your wrist, your entire hand. Each finger. Going back to that same shoulder. Going down your arm, upper part of your arm. And again, with the option to stop at any place that needs a little bit more TLC. There's a lot of studies that say that emotions live in our fingers. We can move some of them along. When you're done with all your fingers, just brushing anything off that arm. And let's actually do both arms. Imagine brushing anything that's bothering you, maybe something that happened last night, this morning, or just anything that you're thinking about. And imagine just releasing it for like 30 minutes. You can pick it up at the end, but you don't need to hold on to it right now. And again, for a moment, I invite you to come to stillness. Close or lower your eyelids. And once again, just notice. Notice if you recognize any difference on how your body feels. Notice if your breath is a little faster, a little slower. And notice your energy level. And taking a nice breath in, breath out with a sigh. And you can open your eyes or raise your eyelids. So I need to share my sound. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little tapping. So I really like breath, body, mind for a number of reasons, but one of the biggest ones is because our breath, our body, and our mind are always with us. And we can share these practices with anyone at any point, regardless of anything. So it's just so accessible for so many people. There's some restrictions for some practices based on health conditions, and I'll share them as we go along. But the self-hug and squeeze is something that is accessible to everyone. So we're going to do some tapping. I'm going to invite you to stand up to do this. You can do it sitting down. We're going to tap different pressure points of our body. And again, please take care of yourself and do what feels right in your body. If at any point you cannot hear me, please put a chat in and let me know that you can't hear me. So I'm going to invite you to stand up.
Linda, we don't hear the song. Are we supposed to hear the song?
You are.
Maybe when you share your screen, select share with audio.
That could be one. And I practiced this yesterday. Let's see. Let me try that again. How do you hear it?
Yes, we do. Thumbs up.
I'm going to invite you to stand up. Start to move. Any way that feels right for you. Tapping one side where your ribs are. Side. Collarbone. Shoulders. Right down the top part of your arm. The top part of your arm. All the way down the top of that arm. Our amazing belly. And we're going to tap the outside of our leg. Take care of your back as you bend down. Your head as you come back up, and only bend as far as you feel comfortable, including those of you sitting down. Tapping the outside of your legs, outside the lower part of your legs, round your feet, inside part of your legs, front of your your lower back. Just touch your feet over, slide it on your shoulder. To one side. Other side. Freestyle. Come to stillness. Close or lower your eyelids. And notice. Notice how your body feels. Again, is there any tingling in your body? Does your body, any part of your body feel different? Notice your breath. And notice your thoughts. And if you have your eyes closed or lowered, you can go ahead and open them. So we're going to do, that is a very energizing practice. We're very specific on where we tap for reasons. And if you come to our teacher training, which is also available to anyone in New York, you can learn a little bit more about the practices and how you can share them with others. So tapping is an energizer. We're going to do one more energizer because I feel like this is a really good one for a number of reasons. So this is called the ha breath. It's a forceful out breath. This is where there are some precautions. If you are pregnant, please don't do this breath. And if you are experiencing any kind of respiratory condition, please don't do this breath. You could just breathe in and breathe out. Anyone that doesn't like loud noises, I'm going to put my hand up and let you know to cover your ears when we do this because it is loud. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the empower one. I feel like it's very important for us to gain our power back or take our power back. And this is one that kind of, it has that power pose, like in yoga, the goddess position. It has the power pose. So what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in as you bring your hands, your arms up and your hands open at the top. Breathe out as you allow them to come down, closing your hands together. And that's where the loud ha is going to come. And that ha could come from your belly versus your throat so you don't hurt your throat. We're going to do just 4 of those. And again, if you are pregnant or a respiratory condition, just breathe in and breathe out gently. And if this doesn't work for you, just breathe in and breathe out with a loud ha. The way I introduce this practice, and I go to homeless shelters, I go to inpatient psychiatric settings, I go to detox settings, I go to we've taught people that are currently in shelters because of bomb shelters. I know for me, I feel frustrated. And sometimes when I feel frustrated, I take it out on the wrong person. And I don't necessarily want my husband to hear my frustration, but my frustration builds to a point. This is a really good breath for you to get that frustration out and not yell at the wrong person. This is just us using our strong voice, our strong words, our strong ability, but not necessarily hurting other people with it. And for definitely not the people that we love and care about, or everyone around us, actually. We don't want to hurt anyone around us. At least I don't want to hurt anyone around me. So again, if you don't like loud noises, this is the time to cover your ears. So breathing in. One more. And allow your arms go down by your side. Close or lower your eyelids or whatever's comfortable for you. And just notice. Notice how your body feels. Notice your breath. And notice your thoughts. And now I'm going to invite you to gently put your hands on your heart. Close your eyes. And for a moment, really ask your heart what it needs. And spend some time listening to what your heart needs. Going to invite you to open your eyes. And I'm going to invite you to breathe in, drawing in whatever your heart needs. Breathe out with a gentle ah, and try to make that sound if you can. And I have one foot in front of the other. I'm rocking back and forth. There's a number of reasons we do this. For me, it's very calming to be able to rock like this. And we have pressure points on the bottom part of our feet. So I'm going to invite you to breathe in, drawing in whatever your heart needs. Breathe out with a gentle ah, sending kindness to one another. Breathe in. Ah. Breathe in. Ah. 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 Two more. Ah. Last one. Ah. Grab a whole bunch of kindness. Bring it into your heart. Close your eyes. And for a moment, allow it to fill up all the spots in your heart that might have been emptied. Giving yourself the compassion you so freely give to others and taking care of you. Once again, just notice. Notice how your body feels. Notice your breath. And notice your thoughts. You can open your eyes. We're going to do one more practice standing up, and then we're going to sit down. So what we did is we did a couple of energizing practices, and the heart high is one that gets us ready for the 4-2-4-2, which it's a very calming practice because there's times that we need to calm down quickly before we present, before we go to court and advocate for someone, before we stand up for ourselves or other people. This is a way of calming down quickly so people take us seriously. I know for me, sometimes if I raise my voice, people miss my message because my voice is way up here. But if I soften my voice and I articulate in the words that I use, and I make sure that I get my point across, that they receive it a lot easier from me. So this is a great practice to use when you're feeling a little frustrated and you need to calm down quickly. If you're pregnant, please do not do the breath holds. It's a slight breath hold, but we still don't want to take the chance. So I'll show you the movement, and you can again modify as you need to or do it without the movement. The breath is the important part of it. So we're going to start with our palms facing up. We're going to breathe in for the count of 4, hold for the count of 2, breathe out for the count of 4, and then hold for 2. Again, modify as you need to. So taking a nice breath in, breath out with a sigh. Another breath in, breath out with a sigh. Now let's add movement, breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2. Try to breathe in and out through your nose if you can. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2. Breathing out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2. Breathing in, hold, breathing out, hold, 2. Breathing in, hold, breathing out, hold, 2, 2 more. Breathing in, hold, breathing out, hold, 2. Last one. Breathing in, hold, breathing out, hold, 2. And once again, close or lower your eyelids and notice. Notice if you recognize any difference in your body compared to some of the other practices. Notice your breath and notice your thoughts. Invite you to open your eyes. If you're standing up and you want, you could sit down. The core part of breath, body, mind is coherent breathing. It's where we're balancing the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system so we could show up for life, focused yet relaxed. So we're going to breathe in for the count of 4, breathe out for the count of 4. So it's about 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. We are slowing our breath down to about 5 breaths per minute. What we're going to do is we're going to do it with a little bit of movement, and then I'm going to invite you to stop moving your hands and just breathe. So you're going to breathe in as you bring your hands up. We're painting a waterfall, and breathe out as you bring your hands down. Again, you can modify, you can just do this, or you can just do the breath. A lot of times people find it very helpful for them to do movement with breath work versus just sitting still for breath work. I know for me, my mind's, I'm thinking about everything I have to do, and this just helps me focus my attention as I do my breath work. And that way I can start calming down very quickly, relaxing, and doing this breath work. So I do coherent breathing instead of a cup of coffee in the afternoon because drinking coffee in the afternoon will keep me awake at 2 o'clock in the morning versus keeping me awake at 2 p.m. And it gives me the energy to keep going for the rest of the day. So I am going to turn on some piano notes. Let me get back to sharing. And the piano notes are something that are available at no cost. I can make sure it goes out with the email about all the resources that are available, so you can use these piano notes at any time. We suggest about 5 cycles or 5 breaths per minute, but if you're taller or for children, we would use something a little bit faster. Taller people, we would use something a little slower. So we're going to start with, and I'm going to turn on the tones, and we're just going to paint the waterfall because I just recognized the time. So taking a nice breath in, breath out with a sigh. Breathing in. Breathing out. 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 2 more times with your hands. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. You can bring your hands to stillness. Breathing in. I'm going to use my hand for anyone that cannot hear us well.
Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Soften the muscles in your forehead and in your face. Breathing in. As you breathe out, soften your shoulder, your neck, your arms, your hands. Soften the muscles around your heart, in your belly, and your back. As you breathe out, soften your legs and your feet. Breathing in. Breathing out. And allow your breath to return to whatever pace feels comfortable. Lower or close your eyes and let your body rest. Breath just returning to whatever pace feels comfortable. Just rest. Start to become aware of the sounds around you. The chair you're sitting on. Taking a nice breath in. Breath out with a sigh. Another breath in. Breath out with a sigh. And you can make some gentle movements, like you're waking up from a mini nap, anything that feels right in your body. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time. And I hope that you had a couple of minutes to be able to rest and relax with everything that you do. Thank you for everything that everyone does. There is such a need right now, and I'm so happy that there's a lot of very strong people out there doing it. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth and Josh.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you, everyone, for walking us through and participating in that exercise. I know I feel very relaxed. So grateful for that time to pause and sit with myself. And we wanted to also acknowledge other resources that exist. And we wanted to point you all in the direction of our website. We have a new web page that features information that is helpful for New American community. So we wanted to share that with you today, remind you of where these resources live. So this is our Office for New Americans website. And if you navigate here, you can find resources for New Americans. So we wanted to point this out to you because we want to support you in connecting people to services, mental health services, for example. So we have here, Know Your Rights, Know Your Resources. You can click on that link. It'll lead you to a lot of resources to help our immigrant communities. And while I go over this webpage, I encourage all of you who join to write your questions in the chat. We'll have some time for questions following this. And here you have family preparedness resources, information about our hotline, the New York State New Americans Hotline, and how to connect people to services. You also have health and family services resources. So how to find a healthcare center, how to get health insurance, health-related support. And we wanted to pause since our hope is to connect New Americans with the mental health they need and to provide trauma-informed care through the resources shared today by Liz, Josh, and Linda. We also wanted to point you to the New York State Office of Mental Health Hotline and how to contact them. I saw a question in the chat about connecting to mental health resources, and I don't know if through the directory of the Trauma-Informed Network and Resource Center, there is a way to do that. But we also wanted to mention there's a link here for the Office of Mental Health in their mental health program directory. And as Laura mentioned, this month commemorates suicide prevention, suicide awareness. There's also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline can be contacted by dialing 988. Addiction services and supports also featured on this webpage. So I will put this link in the chat, and we wanted to, before transitioning to questions and answers, make you all aware that we have resources featured on our website to connect the constituents you serve with the services they need. So I will go ahead and put that link in the chat, encourage you to check it out at your leisure. And without further ado, I'm going to transition to questions. So we ask you all to write your questions in the chat, and we will have some time for Q&A. So, and can everyone, I see some questions start coming in. And going back to things that were shared in the chat, and Jean Morey writes, is the network a resource to find pertinent services within a geographic area? I'm interested in finding mental health services for refugees.
So I can answer that. So yes, through the directory, it is searchable by region. That's one way that you can search the directory, and you can also search by type of services. So you can find both agencies that provide services, but also individual providers of services also have listings there. So one thing I would say is, we are in the early days of building that directory. So it's, so the more people who contribute. So if you're someone who provides those services, I'd also encourage you to sign up and join the directory and create a profile. But that's how we share those resources with each other. But you can search that way.
Beautiful. We have a question from Joanne, and Joanne asks, are mental health services offered in Ukrainian? So I know for our providers, they're providing services to individuals who may not speak English as their first language. And does your directory have a filter for languages? Does it help us identify the languages provided by certain mental health practitioners or certain organizations? That's a great question, Joanne.
Yes, it is a good question. I can't speak specifically to where you might be able to access mental health services in Ukrainian, and I don't know if Linda, you have any awareness of that. I know Breath Body Mind Foundation has worked with providers in the Ukraine, so I don't know if you're aware of services that are available in the state, you know, in New York State around that.
I'm sure that we can have one of the Ukrainian psychologists that we work with point us in some directions. So you can always go to the Breath Body Mind website. You can contact me. I'll put my message or my email in the chat, and you could contact me about any of those questions. We do have a lot of Ukrainians that we started working with a week after they were invaded. And so I know that there's a lot of networks inside the United States, outside the United States, so we can connect you to hopefully some resources, but I'll put my email in the chat.
Beautiful. Thank you, Linda. That's really helpful to have that connection. There's a question from Erica, and Erica writes, when needing to use a translator service, how do you bridge the gap for establishing trust and safety?
It's an excellent question. And it's interesting because I've spoken to people who provide translation services, and we've talked about the need for trauma responsive translation services to really be aware of those principles we talked about and apply it to the way that that service is integrated into you know, a therapeutic setting. There's sensitive information, so it's not just establishing trust between the provider of the service and the individual, but also that translator too. So I think you're identifying a really important piece that is needed to be paid attention to, and there's ways to apply those principles to you know, integrating those services, but absolutely establishing trust and safety within that relationship.
And Erica, there are best practices when working with an interpreter. And I think one of the things that is really helpful for frontline staff or staff that are having that direct connection is to remind yourself of those basic principles of always talking to the client and always keeping in mind that the communication is not with the interpreter, and pacing yourself and making sure that the interpreter is also has a glossary of terms that you may use, because that may help them do their job successfully. So great question. And we have some exercises here, and it is from, excuse me, some additional questions. And Claudia writes, I have a question about the specific mental health resources or exercises for neurodivergent individuals that you can share if you have any on hand. Thank you. And I think that question may have been for you, Linda, if you could share any. Thank you.
So we have a couple of different projects going. Two of them are going with one person who primarily, Dr. Pagano, who works primarily with neurodivergent children. And then we have Jody Manuel, who works with, she's in the UK, special needs children. So, and that's the umbrella, but there's so many things under that. So it's just, she works with children. So she's trying to change the lens of that, because a child is a child. If they have certain things that's going on with that child, they're a child. So she comes up with a number of practices. She's been doing special yoga for the past 20 years. She started working with BBM about 5 years ago. And so she has a program to combine the two together, to have some practices to teach children, regardless of what's going on with their children or how we want to label them. It's a child, and figuring out the best practice to work with that child. So you know, we do have training that we offer in New York for frontline workers. If you want to get involved with the training, we would love to have more people involved with that, so you can become instructors and teachers. And Jyoti does come to level 2 to teach some practices that you can do with children. The practices I offered for you are not really the best for children because they wander, they have a lot more energy than we do. But there's ways that you can modify them to make them where children will, as young as 4 years old, will join in and enjoy the practices.
Wonderful, thank you. I see another question coming in the chat, and it is from Beth. Beth asks, are there low cost or free transportation resources for Northern New York immigrants? So that's not, I don't know if any of you can speak to that, and Beth, we can respond to that question after the fact. If anyone has a question and would like to raise their hands, you're welcome to do that. We did have some questions come in from the registration, so we'll take a look at those questions now. And I think one of the questions that comes up, and it is about how can I tell when someone's stress response has gone beyond the normal or acceptable range and when intervention is needed? Do you have any tips on helping clients and navigating someone who is distressed, how to bring them to a place of calm?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one thing to think about is how is it interfering with their daily life? So if it's getting to a place where their symptoms are prohibiting them from kind of managing effectively at home, or it's impacting their relationships with others, or getting to work, or daily functioning is starting to get impaired, that's usually a sign that the symptoms maybe have reached a point where some additional support or resources could be beneficial. And one thing I would encourage too is to think broadly. Mental health supports are 100% something that can be effective. And they're not the only thing. I think some of the things that, that Linda introduced us to, there's things that could be an accessible first step for someone, like breath, body, mind practices, where that could be an adjunct to getting some mental health services and support, and can help support their well-being.
Wonderful. Thank you, Liz. And one question, I know we have two related questions. And one of them is, how can I train direct support staff to provide trauma-informed care? And then the other related question is, how can we as an employer support immigrant team members in light of the instability in immigration policies? And I'm going to add that in with the third question. How can those listening in continue building the capacity of their organizations to serve immigrants in a trauma-informed way, trauma-informed practice? How can we continue building our capacity through the resources that you have available? And that's a question for all of you to answer. I would love to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, so one thing I would encourage is to please visit the website and take advantage of what we have. As Josh mentioned, all of these resources are available to everyone at no cost. We have training that is available and for staff tending the routes. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can reach out to us. I think the biggest thing is to, Josh talked about how we use the join the journey metaphor. This is an ongoing commitment. So sometimes there's maybe that misunderstanding, like we provide the training and now we're trauma informed. That's usually kind of your entry point. It's your first step. So it's an ongoing commitment that involves training, but also assessing where you're at. And being able to kind of, as an organization in an ongoing way, see where there's opportunities. And it doesn't have to be big, huge changes. Sometimes small changes can have big impact. And I think there was a point about supporting staff right now, really kind of assessing with staff what would be helpful for them right now in these challenging times. And that's going to look different in different organizations depending on what you do, but there's usually something that can be done. And it could, again, thinking about breath, body, mind, let's all take a break at noon and join and do this together could be a first step in that direction.
And
Josh, Linda. Oh, thank you, Linda.
Yeah, for me, I would say take care of yourselves. You're taking care of so many people. Don't forget about yourself. And also for supervisors, make sure you take care of your staff. Give them the space, like Elizabeth just said, to breathe at noon or go for a walk or take a mental health day if that's what they need to do. So really not forgetting to support yourself and your staff and the people, because we're on a planet with other human beings. So let's support each other as human beings.
Yeah. I can't speak highly enough about our tending the roots training and how it can really, and not only is it training, but it really calls into it calls in a conversation. I think that there's like plenty of opportunities to encourage that individuals and organizations that support people going through crisis and trauma um are are called to also be self-reflective. And I think a lot of our tools, like, it's like you look at something like the trust assessment, where it has an assessment like type of vibe, but it really does, if it's administered and really calls into being like an organization and the individuals like self-reflection on how to do better. It's like the crux of having that buy-in, right? Is like, how can we get everyone involved in having a conversation that's like not only how to serve people better, but how to serve everyone, how to take care of all of us that are together in community in this work. It's just really crucial and really important. And a lot of these tools and supports, although they kind of look daunting on paper or just look like another training, they're really not. They're really like an engaging conversation about how we can all come together as community. And that's a big piece of what we're doing and trying to express that as well.
Thank you all for joining us in this conversation, for making time to participate in this ONA webinar. To our wonderful presenters, Liz, Josh, Linda, thank you for your reflections and connecting us to these resources. I encourage you to check out the Trauma Informed Network and Resource Center to bring these resources to take care of yourselves and your staff. So thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day and connect with all these wonderful resources. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.